Yo, what up, everybody? Appreciate everyone rolling through tonight. Monher, Rosie, anybody else that's in the chat, feel free to introduce yourself, welcome yourself into the chat. We're gonna have another great interview tonight. This one's really important to me. I discovered this artist a few years back via a Lyft. My customer in Lyft, I was the driver. I had a customer, and she worked for a company called So Far Sound Chicago, who put on really intimate small concerts at random venues throughout the city. And she said that Rich Jones was her friend and to check his music out. So I thought that was really cool. Another random interaction with a random person brings me an artist interview. So this one should be pretty fun. I'm gonna go ahead and just bring him in right now. We're gonna get this underway right away.
You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Hey, how's it going?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can, yeah. Sound
Great. How are you?
Good. How's it going, man?
Nice to meet you.
Likewise. Appreciate you coming on the show. It's been a while since I've heard about you and discovered you. I was just telling the people in the chat. It was one of your friends actually. I was driving Lyft and she was my customer. I can't remember her name, but she works for So Far Sounds, or she was like a booker for So Far Sounds, and told me about your music. And it was like 2 or 3 years ago now. So I ended up looking you up, and
cool.
yeah, it was awesome. It was perfect too, because you fit right into. It was right around the time that I was thinking about starting a music platform, and told her all my ideas and the concept behind it, and she was like, "Oh, I got this guy who's perfect for it. He sounds like kind of the artist you're looking for." And lo and behold, exactly the kind of person that I like talking to. So really appreciate you coming on, man.
Very cool. Well, thank you for having me, bro. Appreciate it.
No problem, no problem. I guess just right off the bat, what does hip hop mean to you, man?
What does hip hop mean to me? It's pardon. I mean, I guess just from man, this is a very broad question. Yeah, I guess it's been a way of life. It's been an artistic pursuit. It's been something I've been able to break bread with and make money for people with. It's everything. I love it. I think it's been, especially with the last year being inside, not doing shows and whatnot, it's definitely been something I've reflected over a lot in terms of my relationship to it. Me being white in a black art form and whatnot, and kind of really thinking about what that means that I've been I guess brought in as a guest to do this, and being appreciative of those that have made it possible for me to do this, in terms of like teaching me about the culture and teaching me about what this is all about. So yeah, I'd say it's definitely something I take rather seriously.
Definitely. I mean, you're a veteran of the game at this point, over 10 years in. How would you say is I'm a white guy entering this space now too, and I've been searching for ways and the best way to go about doing that. So is there any advice, I guess, you could give me for approaching a space like this, or what is the best way that I can give back to the community, and to make sure that I'm not approaching it in a disrespectful way in any manner, I guess?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's. I mean, I just generally am really polite with people, for the most part. But, yeah, I don't know. I guess there's been times where I've had to be corrected, or I guess they're like shown, a different way of looking at something, that I think maybe I wasn't considering, just based off of where I come from and whatnot. So I think it's more just being sensitive to when maybe you've done something unintentionally, and or if even if you did something you didn't realize, that just be ready to have that conversation, and just be open to hearing whatever criticism is there. And for me, I'm really not trying to upset anybody. So obviously I'm ready to apologize when need be, or if ever that's been a thing.
Definitely. What do you think one of the most important things the city of Chicago has taught you?
I think it depends on the era. I think I've lived here most of my life,
Mm-hmm.
and so I've had a lot of my formative experiences here, and just so I think there's definitely super high levels of comfort. It's I feel very much I don't know. I feel good here. This is home. I think it's definitely taught me a lot about work ethic and about, thinking, I think deeply about the reasons why we do things or why we pursue things, especially if we're talking in terms of music and whatnot. I think it's something where, because we don't necessarily have the same hype machine that other markets may have, I think that there has to be a real love of the game for this shit in a lot of ways, in terms of if you're pursuing this for any length of time. I mean, I think about um all the people that were here when we first were starting over a decade ago, and it's pretty crazy to think I'm one of kind of the last of a certain time period. And I don't know, I also appreciate, I think, I've made a point to reach out to different the different waves that have come out. If there's artists that piqued my interest or whatever, I definitely make a point to, say hi and give respect and whatnot. So I think, it's a lot of different really cool things happening at the moment here in Chicago musically. So I think it's cool to still feel like I'm on a certain level of the pulse of it, even though it's, I've got half a life's worth of, going to shows and whatnot under my belt, and just different eras of influence and whatnot. I'm very curious to see what comes now that, there's not a now that things are getting better. They're not really that better, but at a certain point in our lives, hopefully we'll have a time when we can be more carefree in terms of, possibly going to shows and whatnot. So I really look forward to seeing how people approach that. I know for me, I don't really want to do things the way that I would have typically done it before, we lost the last year. I think it just, I don't know. I'd like to just try some different shit.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. What do you think defines an MC in particular?
I mean, for me, I personally, my favorite definition of what MC stands for is microphone controller.
Ooh,
Because
okay.
I've had a lot of people over the years kind of I don't want to say confused, but they haven't always understood necessarily, like, is he a rapper? Is he a singer? I've released a lot of different types of music, and I think one thing that, people that know me, or even some people that became acquainted with me after they'd heard some of my stuff, they, one person in particular was just like, it's funny, you do all this other shit, but you still have this, very much like an MC's mentality with it. So that's, to me, with how I make my music, I'm always thinking kind of about the flow of it, and obviously, that can contain melody and whatnot, and obviously can lead me to just outright singing and approaching that sort of genre, more so versus what you think for like typical hip hop stuff. But um, at the end of the day, if it's all about flow, then then that means I'm an MC. That's what it is. So I think, for me, I think it stands for microphone controller, and I think it's kind of all about, you know how you handle it, what your pockets are, etc. I know a lot of different schools of thought on what constitutes it, especially now. I think one thing I would say, if I was gonna like really put my foot down about something, is I really it's weird to see like karaoke rap sets where people rap over vocals. That shit's so weird to me, because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
that's not really a show. It's funny because, like, I think it's a weird thing to see this as like an acceptable thing, because like I remember when I was working in venues, we worked um I don't know if they were, I think it was like working like drag shows or like drag beauty pageants, or like they termed it the art of female impersonation. So what they do is they'd be doing lip syncing and stuff like that, while they were up there, being judged or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
that sort of thing, I don't know, there's kind of a theatrical element to it that I could kind of respect. But in this instance, I don't know, it's kind of weird to like, bringing it back to like the hip hop approach, like to be rapping over, your vocals, or to just straight up not be rapping. I know one thing that we did as a joke when I was throwing shows, the sound guy and I, the last couple years, if someone, I had a pretty strict policy. Like I was very upfront about it with people. I said, hey, I need you to not rap over your vocals. There's a certain expectation, a certain standard that I personally have. Please don't do that. And some people, you know, either didn't understand what I meant by that, or
Yeah.
they just ignored it, and so we would turn off their microphone. So they just be up there, they'd have no clue, they're just like, you know, they're just sitting there like, so then that was a fun little bit of mischief to get back. But yeah, I would just say really thinking about the voice as an instrument and like as like something that, you know, should be considered something that you can play with live. You know, I think you know, obviously I've been lucky enough to have a lot of time to think about this shit, so you know, I am where I am with it. But yeah, I think especially with like where, you know, different plugins are on your computers or the ways that you can like set up your mics or whatever, you know, just to create live elements stuff, I think is, you know, it only adds production value to your shit. And in my mind, as someone who's been to like way too many rap shows, like I feel like, you know, I have a certain expectation of what people should bring. You know, flip side of it, like you know, you don't really need much else other than you know, your spirit as a performer and some good vocals. Cause like I don't know if you heard of the group Sleaford Mods. They're from England, and shit's pretty funny. It might not be for everybody, but like basically it's a dude who like does some kind of like rap, word speak, like spoken word sort of like, you know, train of thought shit. And he just stands there and then just kind of is going in, and then the producer just sits by the computer and just like chills, and that's the whole fucking show. People fucking love this shit. It's very unconventional. I know I don't, you know, I'd be very curious to see it live. They seem like cool dudes, but yeah, I don't know. Like I think a lot about like presentation for this shit at this point. Like it's, you know, it's I don't want to like delve into the realm of snobbery, because like for me, as I say, you don't really need that much. You know, if you can rock it, you can rock it. Some of my favorite shows was like this one rapper from New York, Samus. I saw her perform at the Hideout. This is like maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, and at the time I was kind of I was mainly doing stuff with DJs, but she was just doing her laptop, and she, you know, just spacebar, you know, next song, and it was so fucking good. It was amazing. It was just like, oh my god, okay, like this sort of like showed me, you know, okay, so like, you know, it's kind of about your approach. Like, I mean, another thing too is thinking about like, you know, sounding good. If your shit sounds good, then that also helps you. That isn't always the case sometimes. In terms of, you know, venues, in terms of what they have, or if the sound guy doesn't want to give a shit that day or is in a bad mood or some shit, then you're kind of at their mercy. But
yeah. Definitely. Hey, shout out to Nate for stopping through the stream. St. Ripley, thanks for coming by Twitch. Appreciate you.
What up, man?
How do you stay genuine in a world full of so much bullshit right now?
I don't know. I'd stay away from people. I'm very lucky. I've met a lot of really good people over the years, and so I think, you know, especially with being inside more and having a lot more place for self-reflection and whatnot, you know, it's definitely given me some time to think about, you know, the sort of people I want to move forward with in life, you know, and do think about shared values and whatnot. And so I think, you know, I luckily have found a really nice group of people who I share values with, and you know, it's not that we all are like cookie cutter or the same. It's just there's just certain things that we agree on, and I appreciate that. So, you know, I think it's also been it's been nice to you know, have my partner and my family. They're fantastic. You know, I'd be really lost probably without them. So, you know, my support network is really strong. I think it's if anything, you know, understanding the things that I do have, it just kind of makes me want to think, all right, well, how do I pass this on? How do I pay this forward in some capacity? Just because, you know, many years ago, I realized, like, you know, regardless of whatever issues or curves life throws your way, like I very much was like raised in love and like by people who like love me. So that's something that I definitely take to heart, and you know, kind of have as some level of armor. You know, I think it's real. You know, it's you move a little different when you got that. So you know, and then that's in my mind, it's like imperative that I share that, because not everyone has that, you know. And so, you know, a lot of not to be on some like posy vibes all the time, like, you know, unrealistic shit, but you know, there's definitely a healthy way to kind of pass that along, and at least, you know, try to put that shit out there consistently.
Definitely. It's crazy. Actually, this is kind of part of an interview where I introduce you a little bit to my brand by asking you some questions that throughout the interview, well, this is the first one. It pertains to the tree because the tree is very prevalent in my brand. It represents growth. There's 4 different parts of the tree: the roots, the body, the branches, and the leaves. And you kind of covered 2 of them there with like keeping people around you that have kind of the same values. The roots represent your core values because they hold you down as a person. They keep you grounded, and then obviously the people around you, representing the body of the tree, help hold you up as a person too. So, what would you say are a couple of your core values that you and the people around you hold near and dear?
I mean, I think a lot of it centers just around, I don't know, looking out for people, not just being caught up in your own shit. You know, I think, yeah, I don't know. It's folks that I think are more altruistic in terms of how they want to approach their shit. You know, I know for me, I've personally been more and more considering like what ways of service are available in terms of what I do, you know, whether it's the shows I might put on or like a product I sell, you know, what are ways that we can give back, just because I don't know. As I say, like, I feel so lucky to have what I have. It's just like, I just, I don't know. I know some people might say it's foolish to want to try to, you know, not like build up capital, you know, and just become a juggernaut in that way. But I feel like I can do both just because I'm like, I know that there's the way to get money out there and into causes that I care about and whatnot. So yeah, for me, it's just really laying into the service element of it, and the people around me, you know, I'd like to think are similarly minded, where they care about their communities, they care about, you know, their fellow comrades and whatnot. You know, I know in Chicago, you know, a big thing has been looking out for communities that have been abused by, you know, our police and whatnot. And I know it's a really hot thing, like today specifically. So, you know, that's kind of a non-starter for me. I really, I would hope that you'd put humanity over, you know, state sponsored execution.
Right. You would hope.
You know, that's kind of that's kind of a big one.
Seems like a no-brainer, but
Yeah, you'd think,
you would think
but
it would be.
you'd think, but yeah.
Shit. Yeah, my day was abruptly a little bit ruined today. I unfortunately came across the footage. I was trying to avoid it, and
It's not great.
Twitter.
It's disgusting.
Twitter betrayed me, and yeah, my wife came home from work and had to console me for a little bit. Is not a. Yeah, we'll just move past that because that's an unfortunate circumstance, and hopefully we'll see some change out of this shit. But who fucking knows?
Yeah, it's gonna take a lot of work. A lot of work.
Yep, definitely. Is there a certain point that you realize, or a moment that you can like look to where you realize that your words could make a difference for people?
I think, you know, in mourning, I think there's a real rush, both in terms of what's covered and also kind of, I think, in terms of how people process pain and whatnot, to use trauma as a kind of a reservoir for, you know, creative shit. And I've definitely had sad things that have definitely fueled things that I've made. I think like in mourning, I had a friend that was taken from us 6 years ago, and in mourning him, you know, there was a song I'd put out around then that I dedicated to him, and it was interesting to see the ways that people, you know, responded to that and were kind of like, oh, you know, like the you know, we it was kind of, we're all on the same page with the kind of the concepts of loss and just kind of how lost, you know, where we live is. You know, there was another record on a lighter note, well, I guess slightly lighter note, that I did called Everything, that was about a spoiled relationship, the end of something. And that song in particular, I had several people come up to me, very emotional, you know, moments with people where they're just like, I feel like you like are in my head, like I just haven't heard someone explain how I feel, like this is really cool. And you know, that sort of thing, you're just, you know, for me, I'm just floored. I'm like, holy shit, that's really crazy, you know.
Yeah.
The most prominent one was like, I played some small street festival like maybe 4 or 5 years ago in Wicker Park. And yeah, some guy was just walking on the street, and he was just lays into this like really sad story about where his life's been at. And he's like, and I just happened to leave my house today, and I just happened to hear you, and I'm just like thinking like this is divine or something, you know. It's just like, yeah, I guess, man, that is pretty crazy.
Huh.
But you know, so those sorts of moments, both for like, you know, the interpersonal, and then also for like, you know, larger societal questions and whatnot. I think there's definitely on my end, I feel like I've been more so realizing and not being scared of what I can do in terms of, you know, sharing my piece and hopefully, you know, shifting some people's idea of maybe how they move. You know, I know especially with my last project with Montana Max, How Do You Sleep at Night? I think, you know, prior to that project, I've been doing a lot more just like vocal stuff than like rapping, but um especially just with how left field last year was for just life experience, I didn't really know from what place to like come from creatively, so I don't want to call it a reversion. I just went back to what I knew. So I went back to making hip hop records because I love making hip hop records. And, you know, who better to make it with but with my like oldest collaborator and friend, you know, because what the fuck else are we doing, you know? And, but most importantly, also thinking about, you know, the artists that I respected and, you know, from hip hop specifically, and what did I like about them, and what about what they did could I, you know, possibly emulate or take from to you know, make something, especially because I think in times where I'd wanted to write things that had meaning to them, I think you know, with songwriting in general, I fucking hate, you know, when things are too literal or are like too on the money, like this is like capital P a protest song, or like this is a song, like a message song, or just shit like that. It's just at a certain point, it's just if it's too on the nose, you know, I don't know, it just doesn't do it for me. And I think, you know, the best sorts of music that do kind of cause those sorts of emotional responses to me is it's like I there's this quote I saw at a space called Q4 many years ago. It said the role of the revolutionary artist is to make the revolution irresistible. And I think that's an ethos that a lot of people would stand to really, you know, stew on before they go into that realm to make something. So with that being said, you know, not seeing a ton of stuff in that vein, I felt like, you know, I'll approach this as best I can and as sincerely as I can to make a project that I felt, you know, both reflected in important messages and issues of our time while also sounding really good and sounding quite listenable even. You know, I don't want to say listenable, even it's very fucking listenable. But yeah, so yeah, I feel like that, you know, going especially using hip hop, you know, like one of my favorite artists like Guru from Gangstar, you know, his shit is just he's not hiding what he's saying. And I feel like with like more like soul vocals and stuff like that, I feel like I was prone to being kind of more like, you know, read between the lines with what I'm saying. And right about now, I think I'd rather be more on the money and more kind of specific, but like again, not being so specific that it's not listenable or like it's like too preachy or whatnot, you know. I don't know, it's a balancing act, to be sure.
Definitely. Good question from Chad, actually. Thank you, Rosie. What is your favorite part about being an artist? Brainstorming, creating, performing, connecting with the fans? What's the best
All
part?
of it. I
All of it.
love all of it. I get bored if I'm just focused on one thing, and I think
Word.
that's served me well, especially recently as I've kind of like in I don't want boredom's a wrong word. I at a very young age realized that like I had an imagination, and as long as I had that, there wasn't a whole lot that was going to actually be boring. There was going to be like a boring day. And guess what? You know, I think it's very great to have days where you don't do shit and don't do anything stimulating and just fucking veg and sleep and do all that great stuff. But I think for the most part, I've done a really good job of getting after it and having a lot of days that are, you know, just really just getting after whatever fits my fancy. I think this last year has been really interesting because like, um, you know, outside of music has been more so what I've been focused on this year, you know, starting with last month. I had a sandwich with a local restaurant, Gotham Bagels. So I was able to curate a sandwich and do like my first real like official food project. And that was really cool. It's like a whole new thing, you know, and that's another way to connect with people that follow me and whatnot. So it's not like
Yeah.
music, but it's adjacent. It's still a creative endeavor, you know. And then this month we had the smoking set with the joint holder and the
Yeah.
roach clip and the ashtray, and like, you know, with that was really cool because then I got to tap into, you know, people that are like into pot use, or you know, or you know, into smoking weed or whatever. And or you know, I had some people just buy it just because I thought it looked cool and they wanted to support. So shout out those people. Plus, on top of that, like half the money from that going to the Chicago Community Jail support. And as I said, you know, thinking about ways I can be of service or use things that I'm doing to like help fundraise for shit I care about. Cause like that's the thing too, especially with weed. Like, you know, if you're in the weed business, you know, you should 1,000% be donating resources to getting people out of jail and getting people's records expunged. Doesn't matter, you know, if you're making a dime, you need to make sure that you know, part of that dime is going to you know, helping people that have really gotten fucked over here. So, you know, and I know for me, I'm such a bit player. It's a very small thing, but I feel strongly that, you know, we have to be very loud about it, especially as like celebrities get into this shit and start, you know, becoming the plug, so to speak, and selling $80 eighths of like designer kush. And it's like, this is cool, like, you know, congrats on the pretty weed, but like also like what endeavors are you supporting so that, you know, some guy that was selling some shit 20 years ago, like that, like got caught with a dime, you know, how do you help fix his shit, you know? Because it's a real slap in the face that you just get to be right place, right time with this shit and, you know, make millions. And meanwhile, you know, some schmo got hit for a 20 bag. Get the fuck out of here. Like that's, you know, that ain't right. So anyways, to bring it back to what you were saying with like favorite things of it all. Yeah, you know, so that's allowed me to kind of lean more into that. And then as we kind of are in the midst of that, I'm prepping music to be released starting, you know, sometime next month, and then we've got a bunch of shit planned for summer. So I think for me it's kind of just taking the momentum from the previous months and building it into you know, sharing some new music. And for me, you know, I was pretty good at doing shows and booking shows and whatnot. That was a lot of fun for me. And I think this is kind of like a new frontier, is like, all right, like how do we get people to keep listening, you know, and kind of supporting in that way and buying music in that way versus like when they would have bought a ticket. Because, you know, that's the thing. If you're spending $10 or $15 on an album, you know, right now, that's essentially, you know, let's say you're one of those friends that's like, I'll go to my friend's show like a couple times a year. He's a nice guy. I don't love his show. Or like, let's say you're just a big fan and like you'll go 2 or 3 times because like, I like this guy. You know, doesn't matter like what level of casual you are invested in like your friends or like an artist's music. In my mind right now, that $10 or $15 that would have gone to the venue, and you know, someone like me would have seen maybe half of that, maybe if we're lucky. Right now you can give all of that to us and then do that 2 or 3 times a year, and that's essentially the same level of support, but you've got something to go with it. You know, you've got like music, which, you know, obviously there's all sorts of question marks of how valuable that really is right now, just because obviously so much shit is being created. But you know, in my mind, I'm not necessarily casting a super wide net in terms of, you know, who I want for this. You know, it's very specific people I'd like, you know, to dig what I'm doing. So, you know, obviously if it goes elsewhere, cool. But I know who I'm making shit for at this point, and I'm very happy to make them happy.
Definitely. I think it was really cool on the description of the How Do You Sleep at Night that you even mentioned that, like, you thought it was more useful on the Bandcamp platform rather than like a free streaming service because you want people to invest their time in it and make sure they're absorbing what you're saying. So that's super dope.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, that whole thing with streaming is just like, I know we were talking about this today earlier, and you know, I know SoundCloud's got this whole thing where if you listen to an artist, more of your subscription fee, if you're like a pro account or something, will go to that artist. Or your ad revenue, if you listen for free, will go to that artist. It's some shit like that. I haven't paid too much attention to it just because like streaming's cool. I think there's definitely, it's a great way to get your shit out there. I've definitely like made some new fans that way. From a financial standpoint though, I think it's there's a disconnect between the number of plays that you'll have and then how much money you'll see. There's not really, you know, it's kind of like a question mark. So I got 1 million plays, but what does that mean in dollars? And
Yeah.
so I think that sort of ambiguity, that sort of like mystery of it all, I think that's in my mind. And maybe I know I'm a little old fashioned and a little old school in how I look at some of this shit, but like I would much rather right now. I mean, I'll put stuff on streaming probably at some point just because I think, for some of the things I do, I think baseline I should at least have that option available for people. But I really think it's something where I'd much rather allow people the opportunity to pay me directly. Because like with this last project, it was kind of an experiment where it's like, can I get them they would have paid at the release show, they would have paid like 15-20 bucks. So can I do that and convert a certain number of people instead of paying that ticket? They'll pay for that. And we did that. So, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, cool. Like, I proved to myself this is a viable thing that I can do. And then from there, it's like, all right, how do you expand that? So I don't know yet. But either way, I think it's integral that people, if they're serious about supporting artists, spend with them. And I mean, the one thing that's so crazy, especially too, is like, you got to understand, like a guy like me, or like your friend who does this, or maybe has some sort of creative endeavor, like a lot of us, unless we're like devoting like stupid amounts of like potentially like money, especially because people investing in like promotion on different platforms like on Instagram and whatnot, it's just, you gotta understand, like we're the little guys here. Like anybody that pays attention to my shit, thank you so much. Like definitely like don't think for a second that by you hitting like on something, oh yeah, cool, everyone does that. No, like these things add up. So in my mind, I think people really should understand that, if you see someone you care about doing something, support their shit. Like just hitting like is great. Sharing it's even better. That was one thing. I had a friend, my friend Good Food, a producer from New Jersey. He just dropped an album called Holy Shit, and the album was so fucking good that as I'm listening to it, I just texted it to like 20 people. Just copy paste, boom. No, left field. Nothing, no warning, just here it is, just send that shit out, which like obviously I probably should also send some prefacing for some of this stuff, but like also fuck it, like whatever, man. Like if people are getting links from me, they know I make music that I imagine they think I've got at least halfway decent taste. So if I send them some shit, they already know what time it is at that point.
Let's see, do you have like a time constraint? I don't want to ask many questions or keep you too long. Is there a certain time you need to be off of here or anything?
I mean, how long do these typically go?
I don't know. Usually it's about an hour, but honestly, you're being a little more talkative
that
than
works
a
for
lot
me.
of the people.
I got another.
You got something else?
No, I got, I can go about 20 more minutes. That's
okay.
Fine.
Cool. I just want to make sure I get the questions in that I want to ask the most. So,
yeah, no problem.
Cool. Let's see. How do you find confidence in yourself? Has it ever been a struggle for you? Is that something that you had to like grow into and find, like, learn how to do?
Yeah, I'd say. I mean, there's a lot of different ways the confidence expresses itself, whether that's like confidence on stage, confidence in business, confidence, in creating. I've had really good teachers. I've had really good mentors. I've had just, good friends, ultimately family type people, and then actual family who've been able to talk to me about just a lot of different angles of the business. I'm a curious person. So I think even if my talent didn't match my ambition, I think people for the most part seem to think, well, he's coming from a good place, so we'll take him in. He's doing this shit for the right reasons. So I think like in terms of growing into it and kind of having things sort of click in a certain way for it. I mean, I hate to say it. I think in a lot of ways, you got to keep doing it. I think there was definitely a lot of years where it was not the best show experience, or it was doing exactly what it should have been doing, because that was the level of where it was. So I think in terms of like my confidence in it, I don't think I had like any sort of like I aspired for some sort of like deep connection to it. And I think I discovered that, especially when I started doing more solo material and focusing on my solo music. That was something where, at a certain point I started performing just by myself or with another person. But then the last few years, especially just doing it by myself, there's a vulnerability to it. There's like, I'd have a lot of people that are like, man, like, it's really crazy. They're just, regardless of the stage size, sometimes it'll be like a pretty big stage, and it's like, oh my god, it's just you. Like that's kind of crazy. Do you get like nervous? I'm like, not, not really at this point, because the one thing I will say, I once I kind of figured out a way to kind of, I don't know. I don't even want to say figure anything out. I think once I found myself, or found the version of myself that I'm comfortable sharing with people, or that I know will be, the best in terms of like, creating an experience that makes people feel good. Because if I'm being a fucking crab, that doesn't really do it.
Mm-hmm.
uh, so I think, really trying to dig down deep and find ways to kind of like give an authentic, performance, being honest about where I am and who I am, but like also, understanding that I'm not there to terrorize people. I'm not there to be a dick. So, because this, if you're entertaining, there's a certain level of expectation of what you're providing. So,
Definitely.
um, I think, yeah. So from like a confidence standpoint, I think once I kind of found, you know, my groove, so to speak, I really just kind of get up there and do it. And, people seem to like it. All right.
We got another good question from chat, Saint Ripley. Do you have a favorite Chicago musician right now? If you can pick one or two, is there anybody that's like really inspiring you to move a certain way, or anybody that you can point out that's like,
Yeah. Yeah. My friend Convertible Ashley,
okay,
uh, formerly David Ashley, he's my favorite rapper in Chicago right now. I just think everything he does is just so cool. I really like it. Production choices are great. Raps are great. Presentation's great. It does everything for me. Def C, who I know is on Filthy with Ripley. He's prepping to really have a nice deluge of stuff. I'm very grateful that he asked me to be on the deluxe Nick album with Arcade. That was a really nice little thrill. That was crazy because he hit me with to do that, and then I did it, and then I was like, "When's this coming out?" And he's like, "Next week." I'm like, "Oh, great, that's great." I almost never get to like do something and then have people hear it right away, so that was really a treat. That's also kind of why I'm like really gung ho about sharing records next month, because it's like I got some new shit. I'm just gonna get it out there. We'll get it circulating. But yeah, and then outside of hip hop, I really, really, really like Shawnee Dez. She's amazing. Fantastic vocalist. Just like, I don't know. I've booked a lot of artists over the years to perform, for release shows or showcases and whatnot. And she really just absolutely blew me away. Just super quality. There's also a group, uh, my old drummer, Kai Black, and their partner, Asha. They have a group called Aura Sun. They're working on that right now, and that's some really cool, different shit.
okay, awesome, awesome. How do you go about finding motivation in like something negative, or build yourself back up when something bad happens?
Um, I mean, it depends. I know a lot of school of thought says, give yourself like 15 minutes to feel bad about yourself, etc., and then keep it moving. And I think, for me, I'm a person, I think of, I don't want to necessarily say a certain level of extremes, because I feel like part of getting older for me has been understanding how to be more consistent. So like, I feel like with dealing with all that, I think it's just something where if things aren't moving forward, and things aren't going well, I know how to unplug and kind of give myself space to recharge. Some days you just wake up and it's a shit day, and it's unfortunate, especially as someone who appreciates it. We have a very
Mm-hmm.
finite period of time to live, and so I try to be mindful of of that, especially, and not to be too down in the dumps, because there's a lot of good stuff out here. But there's also just some days that just suck. So
Definitely.
I think it's about giving yourself that room to do that. I'm very lucky. I have like a fantastic support network, like people. A lot of my problems are like a phone call away from probably being at least like put into a different light, if not fixed, you know.
Yeah.
So that's helpful. That's good. But yeah, you know, that's kind of it.
That's awesome. What would you say is something that you're maybe working on this year that maybe you learned over the last year to improve yourself as an artist?
Uh, I so because of the whole shebang and not going anywhere, I had to get a home studio set up. I had some very nice friends donate equipment to me so I could work from home. And yeah, I've just been like slow and steady getting after it since. I think something I'm really proud of is uh, getting more in tune with and used to mixing the music and kind of playing with like the effects and textures of it, because that's something I really just obsess over. Like my favorite songs have texture to them, or there's like distinct sounds to it, and like I appreciate like the mixing on it. And so like, you know, and it doesn't have to necessarily be overly complicated stuff. And in fact, I sort of like shit a little. You know, I know lo-fi is just at this point like a 4-letter word, literally and figuratively, but like you know, stuff that is definitely a bit more degraded in quality and kind of has a bit more of like a rustic quality is kind of more for me, just because like it, you know, in my mind it's about, you know, capturing, and it's to me, so a lot of ways that I'll record, for instance, like if I'm doing a whole song, you know, a lot of ways I'll do it, I'll just perform the whole thing. You know, a lot of people will say, oh, break that up, you're capturing different takes, you're mixing and matching, and like I'll be honest, like I've done that, I'll punch in occasionally, but for the most part, I, you know, to me I'm capturing a performance. It's not about, you know, Frankenstein's monstering a song, at least for me right now. Like in a year I might say something completely different, but with all that being understood, it's, you know, it's been, yeah, it's been something where that's been my approach to it. And then on top of that, like, you know, figuring out how to then refine all that and get it sounding a nice way, that's been really gratifying. So I'm excited to have more opportunities to, you know, do that for myself and hopefully other people, you know, because it's definitely, you know, something that I think I could have some fun with.
Awesome. I got four more for you. Somebody who you are proud of for accomplishing something recently, like somebody close to you, and what is it that they accomplished that you can shout them out for?
Well, my mom just turned 70.
Hey.
It's a really big deal.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that shit's super tight. Happy birthday, mom. Really proud of you for being here. Um, Man, I think my friend who's a realtor, I think he had some he closed on some shit recently with some people. That's been good. Happy
Nice.
for him. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's kind of off top. Nothing too crazy.
Word. These are a couple questions that I ask every artist that come onto the show. What does success mean to you?
At this point, I think it's, you know, and I know there's probably some level of time limit and whatnot on this specifically, but I feel like right now, I think I'm most appreciating that, you know, aside from a few other endeavors that I have on the side, I basically do whatever I want, and that's success to me. You know, my bills are paid. I'm able to pursue my craft. I work on projects that I'm excited about. I have a good group of people around me. You know, in a lot of ways, it's the dream. So I think instead of like overcomplicating it or trying to, you know, find some way to find something wrong with it, I'm just kind of embracing it and, you know, just kind of leaning into that as fully as I can, just because, you know, I think there's, you know, I've been doing this a hot minute, and I think there was definitely, you know, I have had and do have aspirations of like, you know, expanding this as big as it will go. Cause, you know, I really like the idea of being able to take this elsewhere and being received and doing larger things and, you know, getting that sort of like feedback or that sort of stimulus, you know, that's exciting to me, you know. So I think, you know, those are goals for the future years to come. But yeah, right now, yeah, as I say, I do mostly what I want, and I'm around people I want to be around all the time. So that seems like success to me. And everyone's healthy. All my family's healthy, for the most part. Oh, knock on wood.
Word.
So, I'll take all those things to the bank any day of the week.
Kind of piggybacking on the end of your comment there. What is when you leave this earth? What do you want your legacy to be?
I mean, don't put me on no fucking pedestal, but I think, definitely, I think what I would want people to take from whatever they know of me is, be inquisitive, be curious about other people, care about other people. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding and a lot of really negative shit that happens just from people not being willing to do that or not being even remotely curious about doing stuff like that. So I think, you get a lot of division and I don't know, there's just a lot of weird complexes that come with that and a lot of really awful shit that comes with that. So I would just say, yeah, definitely be mindful of your neighbors and looking out for them and because their health is your health. We're all in an ecosystem together, whether it's on like a neighborhood level or a city level or a country. It's that as big as you want to get it, like we're all part, we're literally in this together. So, the weakest link is hurting. That means we're hurting, even if we don't see it on the surface,
Dang, that's a beautiful answer, man. Awesome. And then the last one I got for you, again, one that I ask every artist, what does truth mean to you?
Truth, for me, it's, I don't know. It's saying how you feel. It's saying what you believe in. It's, I don't know. I mean, look, as they say, the truth often lies somewhere in the middle, especially if it's opposing views. So, it's how you see things. It's how you see things.
Word. Awesome answer. Hey, man, seriously, it's awesome to be able to chat with you for a little bit here. I appreciate you coming on the show. And if you got like new music to preview or you got something dropping, you want to come on and talk about the drop, if you need something, I don't know, whatever, just let me know. I built the platform to try to help artists like this in any way that I can. No, I'm not anything crazy big yet, but we're working to get there. And if you need anything, let me know, man.
Hey, look. I don't really give a shit about the size of it. You're cool. I appreciate what you're doing for our city, and also most importantly, it has to start somewhere. So I'm not judging you. Like,
oh no,
and it's also like who is gonna tell our stories though? It's not like outlets are being pumped full of money to pursue this, or it's not like people are getting paid to do this necessarily. So this is a labor of love, so it's appreciated, man. Like I sincerely thanks for being interested to talk. Like
Definitely.
really, it's something where if you stick with it and keep at it, you never know where it's gonna go. So please keep going, man.
Definitely, I appreciate the words, man. Again, if you ever need anything, want to come on, let me know, and hope you have a solid night, and we'll keep in touch, man.
Sounds good, man. Take care. Be safe.
Take it easy.
Bye.
Hey, that was Rich Jones. What a cool guy. Oh man, that was super sweet, super awesome. Great interview, man. His music is great too. You guys should definitely check it out. Let me go ahead and pull up the interview screen. I'm gonna pull up his Bandcamp right there real quick. That is how you can support him. Please go ahead and go on Bandcamp. Like I preach it all the time. If you don't have a Bandcamp account already, go make yourself one. You can buy this most recent project that he's got on there. Again, How Do You Sleep at Night? There's a whole preface to the album right down here. He's got a big paragraph, a lot written on what this project means to him and everything. Super genuine guy. Please go support him. This is the best way to support. Like he said, this is the best way we can support people, the artists that we love right now, is to give them the money directly and support them for the music that they're making for us. So please be sure to go follow him on Bandcamp, follow him on Instagram, follow him on Twitter. Rich Jones, super dope guy. What a great guy for the Chicago culture in particular, hip hop in particular. What an honor to be able to speak to him. I appreciate everybody who rolled through. Tomorrow night we got another awesome Chicago interviewee coming through. We got Slime. He just dropped a project on Bandcamp as well. That one's called Monk, and he's going to be rolling through the stream tomorrow night. We're going to be talking about that, and who the fuck else knows what. You never know what you're going to be getting into when you're talking with Slime. So we're going to be talking with him, and it should be an interesting and fun interview as well tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central. Make sure you tune in, and man, I appreciate everybody that rolls through all the time. Thank you guys so much.